you will keep playing this game. You will keep going to the temples. You keep going to your shops, and you keep making money, and it will never come out. And we have been doing it for millions of generations. So we have to realize that. And ultimately, if you do get hurt from the greed, the hurting from the greed is also coming from within, because your desire was to have something. So ultimately, your coins of rupees or dollar bills has no value to it until you look at it with a desire. You thought that X amount of dollars will make me happy, and you did not get it, so you are unhappy. Now, it's not the fault of $9,900 that you have in your account instead of $10,000 that you wanted. The desire was yours.
Yeah, it's not actual loss, but it's a sense of
it's
loss.
It's a relative loss.
Yeah, sense of loss.
Exactly. Whether it's a sunrise or sunset.
Right.
And you sunset and you're unhappy, sunrise you are happy. But there is no sunrise, there is no sunset. It's your doing. It's your rotation of the earth that is making you think there is sunrise, think there is sunset. And all this happiness and unhappiness came from within. So, Samudra Manthan, first the poison came out. The poison was within your mind. So to purify it, you have to go beyond. First the poison comes out, and then the Amrut comes out. But it's all within. Your poison is within, Amrut is within. All that you have to go within. There is nothing outside. So don't blame the outside world. Every single suffering, every single bad things that you go through is your doing. Nobody else is doing. So when you point fingers at other people or other situations, oh, because of this, because of that, this and that, and you will find people to sympathize with you. Oh yeah, that guy is bad. No, it is your expectation. But we never realize that. So one step we go further is first step is of course to realize the futility of these things. And the futility is only futile because we put importance to it. That's why it looks futile. But go within, there is no win, there is no loss. Everything is just is. This is a party of existence that is there going on. So the main goal is to reverse your journey and go within. And the journey is not that easy. If you think that just closing your eyes and going within, the journey is going to be easy, you're going to be fighting all your emotions and all these wrong conceptions that we had. And it's not easy because they've been built up for many generations. And every birth that you're taking, you have created new vasanas and vrittis and all that. And all these things are within. And you will be fighting all these things. If you cannot fight in the material world, and if you become a loser and you hate the world and then go within, that's a wrong thing to do also. Because you think that, okay, I could not achieve, so maybe let me try my luck in the nirvana. That's going to be even, what do you think, that God is easier than making dollar bills? Is even more tough. So we have to realize the journey is not easy. But then that journey has to be taken at some point to achieve that state. Or to be happy, to have the bliss. At some point we have to come out of this matter, because that's how the progress has been going on. We used to have animals straight, and we cannot keep going back to the animal says, okay, I want to forget about all these things and drown myself in alcohol or forget about all these things. That's a negative way of going. Ultimate, our journey has to go towards being a Buddha. And so we cannot stop that flow of consciousness that's happening within. We have to float with that flow. We have to realize that source of energy that is flowing within. We have to observe and be a part of the flow rather than taking exits. So, but going with that flow, we have to drop our wrong imaginations, wrong concept. And one of the major concept is that there is anything to achieve. Because to achieve something, we become a beggar from the life. I don't have this, I want this, so I'm going to act in this world and achieve. All that concept has to grow. So that, and it's very difficult. That's why they say, when the going gets tough, tough gets going. So at that point, the more patience and more, hard efforts will be needed, in the sense, not efforts, but you really persevere. You have to have more spiritual awareness, and that we can have it with satsang and being in environments and the situations where it can foster. It will happen by itself, but you have to have more and more situations like this to continue going in that direction. So they said even all these, gods which were doing the penance, and then all these Menka and Urvashis were sent. Even people who had achieved the great pinnacles of the spirituality had to come down because of all these, temptations. But they say the Urvashi, what does that mean? Ur means your heart, Vasi. So Urvashi is not coming from outside. The outside world is not going to come to destroy you. Only your notions, your thinkings are destroying you. So Urvashi was also within. Whenever you get into a lower level of spirituality and coming back into material world, it's all again because of your own inside feelings and things you have to build. So the journey is not difficult. They say if you cannot be Alexander, you cannot be Buddha either. So that's even more tough. So, but that's fine. So focus should not be on giving up things outside, the greed, I have to give up this, I have to give that. All those rules and niyams and all this stated by the scriptures, and you try to follow that, is also a futile exercise, because then you become a doer in that direction also, that I have to do this, I have to watch that, I have to do that, and all that. But once the light of consciousness shines, the darkness will automatically disappear. Darkness is not an existential thing. It's not an object that you can pick it up, and as soon as you turn the lamp on, the light comes on, the darkness disappears. You don't have to make any efforts to throw the darkness away. So our efforts should be more positive, on have the light from inside rather than. So acceptance is everything, and trying to change things is the problem. So all these things that we have, the greed, the fear, the anxieties, and all these things, we don't realize that all they exist is only because we give power to those things. Every single thing has a power that is given by you, and it's your power that makes it alive. If you think that somebody hates you, and you keep fostering that thought again and again and again, it becomes a reality. Yes, she hates me. So now I have to hate back. If she's like that, I have to be like that. So all that power is given by you only. So the only thing you have to do is become an observer. At that time, it's like a car which is going with full force. You're just taking the fuel away. Now the car will have its own momentum. It will go on. You take the brake pedal off, so it will run, but the fuel is not there anymore. You stop giving your power and you hold on to your own power, and that's the process of observation. When you become an observer, you still are aware of your power. All you're doing is just withdrawing that power. So you're not a non-doer who have no power. What can I do? You are full of power. In fact, you will have more power by not acting. I had an example of one of the patient. Her husband is a drunkard. He comes home every few weeks and makes a big sin. And every time the fight goes on, and she tries to do something, this and that, and gets escalated, and they're unending situation. So she brought up that point. I said, next time that happens, you just stay quiet. He says, but how? I said, well, at that time, he's under the influence of alcohol. There's no point in making sense to him anyway. So I said, just hold on to it, nothing. And he says, how can I do that? I said, well, just do it. I said, you become an observer, just don't say anything, and just watch. And the next time she came, she said, it was amazing. He says, he went on for 2-3 hours. I did not say a word. I felt so much peace at that point. I just kept watching what he's doing. And nothing changed on his part, but on my part, I enjoyed it. I was almost like a parent looking at my kid throwing temper tantrum in the middle of a mall. He's doing that, he's saying, I want a candy, I want a candy. So for that moment, I became his mother.
Well, I'll do the same thing when Sangeeta fight with me.
Actually, our academy pediatrics has the same.
Right,
It's
right.
for active non-intervention.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Active
So people,
non-intervention.
Actively you don't intervene.
right,
Active non-intervention.
right, right.
The concept
Right, exactly. So you're watching everything, you're aware of everything, but you have that power you're
But they
holding
might
on.
get even more mad. That why you're not fighting
So you
back?
have more power. Then you have more power.
Good idea.
Good idea, no?
कुछ तो फायदा हुआ आने का सत्संग.
So I have to use that against her.
No, but actually in
Now
that
she
case
knows my
also,
secret.
You see that the person who is
After that, they give up.
I mean, it happens. No, not like with the family, but even with professional life also. Like people, if you just let them vent out the whole
Yes.
concept of whatever they are upset or angry about, it usually lasts 2 minutes, and they suddenly calm down
Right.
and become rational.
Right, right.
I mean, it's recent example. Friday, I was working, not even working in the office, and one of my patients got very upset that you are running late and it's 1 hour, and do you think that we don't have time? Our time is equally important. You make well exam appointments and you don't show up on time. And he just ranted and raved for 2 minutes. I said, can I say something? He said, yeah. I said, I had emergency. I can see you now.
What we can do is what matters. Right, right.
I'm sorry, doctor. He just came.
I know.
I let him talk for 2 minutes. I didn't say
Right, right.
anything. I didn't argue
Sure.
with him. So I have good insurance. I don't need your services. I can go see somebody else.
So that's what it is. It's our power, our consciousness that's feeding all this so-called sansar. Why is the sansar painful? But sansar is painful only because we're making it painful.
Right.
So the same sansar can be beautiful if we hold on to our power and just flow with the existence. And when we flow, we just become an active observer of the whole sansar. And the same sansar becomes so beautiful. Everything becomes enjoyable. Because we don't have to get anything from sansar. We don't have to lose anything in the sansar. We all are just for existence. You know, why do the flowers bloom? Why do the birds sing? Do the birds think that their song is going to be published on the YouTube? They don't care. Is it going to be in the New York Times that the such and such birds had such a beautiful bird song? No.
No.
It's just there.
They do it because they do it.
They just do it because they do it. So we should be spontaneous. Be happy. And that
Right.
Sahaj Samadhi is what is all about. Sahaj Samadhi is you become Sahaj. You become so Sahaj that whatever you do is not artificial. You're just making it out of your existence. And at that point, it cannot be wrong. Because consciousness is acting through you. You are a flute. Why is the flute able to bring out the tune from the flute player? Because it's hollow. It has holes. He says, you let it out. Whatever you want to bring it out. You drop your ego and let Paramatma sing through you.
Very
It
nice.
will just
Very
happen.
nice experience.
Right?
I really
That
like
is his greatest. If it was solid, nothing will happen.
Nothing. Very,
Right?
very nice.
Exactly.
Very
We just
good
drop-
analogy.
and
Very
that
good
our
analogy.
next lecture is gonna be on Sahaj Samadhi.
Okay.
Nice.
Very
We
nice.
like
So man is the only one who looks for a purpose for whole thing, and purpose is the wrong concept, right? So make every step of your life a celebration, a joy. You will see life in a totally different way. When you look at the sansar with greed, it's sansar. When you look at Paramatma with greed, it's a sansar. And when you, let me phrase it the other way. Sansar is Paramatma seen through the eyes of greed. And Paramatma is sansar seen through the eyes of nirvana.
Repeat again.
When you look at sansar,
Okay.
alright, alright, let me phrase it a little different. It's beautiful. Sansar and Paramatma is the same thing. But when a sansar is seen through the eyes of greed, it is sansar. When you drop the greed, sansar is Paramatma. So everything becomes beautiful if you don't have a greed. So greed
Makes it a sansar.
makes it a sansar, right? It taints it.
What does
Don't see, then it is
what is
Paramatma.
greed? I mean, just
No, don't start that. Just listen to my lecture on YouTube. I'm sorry. That was 1 hour before you came.
no. I'm just definition like.
No. We can't start at that. That's how the whole thing started. So for that you have to be here. It would not be fair to these people. So sansar and Paramatma are the same thing. It's the greed that taints everything. So you drop the greed and the sansar becomes Paramatma. So dancer and the dance is the same thing. That's
Now I
when you
understand.
drop the greed, the dancer and the dance is the same thing. Then you are not evaluating why is he dancing, why isn't he playing on such and
is
such
it good
stage.
or bad?
And yeah,
Doesn't-
right. We had when we used to live in Ahmedabad, we used to have one lady. She used to come, Rajasthani lady, and she would sing so beautiful. She would just sing bhajans, and poor thing, she was making her living out of that, but she would come and sing a beautiful folk bhajans, and we used to give her some money for that and appreciate and all that. And when my wife, when I got married, and when I told her that this lady has been here, why don't you listen to her? And she was so mesmerized. She had a beautiful voice with so much strength, almost like Diwali band or somebody like who has that,
Oh,
such a
yeah.
high pitched
Yeah.
voice.
Diwali Ben Bill.
Diwali Ben Bill,
Diwali
yeah.
Ben Bill.
She was like that, except Diwali Ben Bill was like on the top, and she made tons and tons of money.
Right.
But it doesn't matter. And we asked her. She says, "I just do it because I enjoy doing it." And I said, and then our commercial mind already started working. Oh, you should do this and you should do that and this and that. Again, like we always
on the
think
radio.
of that material way of looking at the whole thing. And maybe she might have done it and might have failed or something, something like that. So all those greed of making more, it just changes everything. So sometimes there was another movie I remember. It was a beautiful movie, Deliverance. It was about 3 people who go hunting. And they spend several days in a jungle. They basically go for hunting, they get lost, and they end up with some tragedies. And it was a beautiful movie. And then one guy is like, he falls and he had a fracture and was in the middle of nowhere. This was many years back, no GPS, nothing like that. So there was no help available. And then he sits there, and then one of them was a flute player. The guy who gets a fracture, he's a flute player, and he's waiting for some help to come, and his friends are going back to the city to get it and all that. Meanwhile, he just plays flute and just for his own enjoyment. All of a sudden, somewhere, he hears another flute playing back.
Oh,
And all of a sudden, he says, what's going on there? So he hobbles, and finds out there's some local kid,
yeah, he's
9,
playing
10-year-old, and he himself was a big flute player,
Right.
playing somewhere on a big Broadways and things like that. All of a sudden, this guy is replicating exactly whatever he's playing, and they had a melody going on. It was amazing. The kid out of nowhere,
Right.
he's doing the same thing, but they both playing out of their heart's sake. So that's the beauty of it. Was such a beautiful scene, I had seen, right? So the dance of life comes alive only when you drop your false concept and false notions. So greed is one of them, right? So now every moment in your life becomes an expression of Paramatma. Every single moment. And why is not? Every single thing. When you are severely thirsty, you come back out of 105 degrees and you're so, drenching. You have so much thirst and you have a first sip of water, nice cold water. Think of Paramatma. Paramatma, who is thirsty, Paramatma is being given back to, and that satisfaction that you get is the dance of life. Every single process, when you're hungry, the first bite that comes in. So give moments of those enjoyments. Eat when you're hungry. When the hunger meets the food and the joy that comes out of it is Paramatma. Keep your awareness open all the time. Make every single moment a joyous moment. Don't eat when you're not hungry. Don't drink when you're not thirsty. Every single interaction that you have, think the consciousness behind you is interacting with the consciousness behind another person. Have a respect. And then all of a sudden the ego drops and the other person's consciousness becomes just as important as your own consciousness. Then we are all dancing together. That togetherness, the friendliness, that openness, all of a sudden you jump out of your body. And that's open eye meditation. I'm sure a lot of people had experience. You feel you're expanding because that's what it is. Consciousness is infinite. At that level, the whole world becomes just joyous moment, right?
So that means you have to just intervene, not interfere.
Why intervene even?
No.
Not even intervene.
Why intervene?
Observe.
You express yourself. Not even yourself, the self I'm talking about, the consciousness. You just become a vehicle. There is nothing to intervene, there is nothing to interfere.
Observe what's happening.
You become natural. Sahaj Samadhi. So, Taittiriya Upanishad has few sloks, there are several sloks, and it's beautiful. And they said every single moment is a joyous moment. From the moment you eat the food to even defecation, everything is a process that is creation. The seed which is planted in the soil is Brahma. The water that is given to the seed is Brahma. The soil that holds on to that seed is Brahma. The seedling that's going to come out is a manifestation of Brahma. Every single molecule is Brahma. And when you think that, you become Brahma. So,